All right, everybody at JP Football Fanatics, anybody that's a football fanatic, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children, adults of all ages, welcome to your weekly Week 16 recap reaction video here for you all once again. So, we are going to be going over Week 16 results. We're going to be talking about some teams that may be or may not be making it into the playoffs. We will be talking about some games that happened during the weekend. Who is a dark horse? Who is probably right now at this point maybe a heavy favorite in the postseason? And so on and so forth. So I'm excited. I want to talk about a lot of things here tonight. I'll try to simplify them, reduce them, and talk about them a little bit as much as I possibly can. So that way, I'm moving forward with what I want to talk about versus, what you guys want to talk about and so on. So this is a good opportunity for me to continue on. It's a good opportunity for you guys to just do what we got to do to continue moving forward and just coming up with, other stuff as well. Some things that are really important to talk about and moving forward and what have you. So, really cool stuff going on here. We're already, 2 weeks away from, 3 weeks away, 3 weeks away from the postseason. And it's looking like a good one right now, just based off how everything is shaping up and everything. So, without all that being said, please be sure, before I get started here, please be sure to drop a like on this video. Be sure to also leave a comment down below as well. Just talk about what you guys want to see, like as far as like different NFL content and what have you. I talk about a lot of things. I talk too much maybe in some people's eyes. So, if you want to do all that, and you want me to talk more about like different other things in the NFL, maybe some NFL issues or what have you, or other sporting issues too as well that you want me to try to help grow the channel a little bit, please, by all means, do that. Let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear your guys' opinion. I want to hear you guys what you have to say for me and everything like that, and then we'll all work from there. So that will be good. And if you also could do the same thing for me too, because it's been a while since I've really had one, please just hit that subscribe button. Tell people to subscribe. Hit the notification bell down below too if you're able to do that. So that way you guys know when I am going live and any kind of new content that comes towards your way. So do all those things, like, subscribe, comment, notification bell, and all will be good. All right? So please do all those things. Let me just take a quick sip of my drink here, and then we will get started with talking about the playoff picture. All right. So we see some people that are in the chat here, so thank you so much. Looking at my phone too, so that way I'm kind of keeping in contact as far as like, who's on right now, and seeing how more people tune in. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get started. We'll talk about the playoff picture here first and see what it's looking like. Here we go. All right. So first things first, we'll talk about the AFC side. All of these teams clinched the playoff spot. We'll talk about each and every one of these teams as informatively as possible. So we've got the Buffalo Bills. They clinched their division. They won their division already of the AFC East. So right now they're at number 1. The Chiefs are at number 2. They clinched their division this weekend. So, with another win over the Seahawks. Number 3 is the Cincinnati Bengals. They did not clinch their division yet because the Ravens are a game behind them, but they clinched a playoff berth at this point in the season. So we'll see what happens between them and the Ravens moving forward. Like, I believe the Bengals and the Ravens play the last game of the season, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they do. Then we got the Ravens right now at number 5. They also clinched a playoff spot. The Chargers clinched a playoff spot at the end of the game last night. So they clinched the playoff spot. Now they are in the playoffs regardless of what happens. So the only side for the AFC that's all really going to start fighting for a spot now is going to be, obviously Jacksonville will be because of their division. The Miami Dolphins will be fighting for that last spot there. We'll talk about the Miami Dolphins in just a bit. Then we got the New England Patriots, the Jets, the Titans, the Steelers, and the Raiders. One of these teams that probably could get eliminated this weekend, or next weekend, I should say, might be the Raiders, depending on how the Dolphins make out. But the Raiders might win a game. They might get eliminated after this weekend. We'll see. But that last wild card spot, man, it's coming down to the wire. It's going to come down to any of these teams that we're looking at over here: the Dolphins, Patriots, Jets, Titans. Obviously, for the Titans, it would be their division. The Steelers and the Raiders, and then everybody else is all eliminated. So AFC is looking really, really strong here. A lot of teams that have clinched already, but there's still some teams that really need to push the pace here and see what we can do. So we'll talk about those teams when we get there, but that's what the AFC playoff picture is looking like. Then on the other side, we've got the Eagles at number 1. They clinched the playoff spot despite their loss on Sunday. Then you got the Minnesota Vikings at number 2. They clinched their division, so they pretty much have wrapped up their division there in the NFC North. Then you got the 49ers, clinched their division for the NFC West. The Cowboys clinched a playoff spot. Not sure who or where they're going to be just as of yet, but I think they're pretty much going to lock up a fifth seed right there. Then anybody in the NFC South besides the Falcons are still in it to win it. So we've got the Bucs, the Giants, and the Commanders that are all fighting for a wild card spot there. But the Bucs are right now, they're still hanging on to that division lead right there. They're 1 game ahead of the Carolina Panthers. It's going to come down to the Panthers and the Bucs. They play this weekend, and that's going to pretty much make it or break it for the Bucs, because if the Panthers win, then they'll take over the NFC South and probably could win that division because of their head-to-head victory over the Bucs. But still a lot of teams here that still need to discuss whether or not they're going to make it. Obviously, the Giants and the Commanders are two really big ones right there, especially the Commanders because they lost again on Saturday. Then you've got other teams that are looking into it. You got the Seahawks, the Lions, the Packers, the Panthers, and the Saints. The Saints won. The Packers won. The Seahawks won. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The Seahawks lost. So the Packers, the Panthers, and the Saints, they're all teams that won. So, yeah, that last wildcard spot is going to be critical. Very critical. I think that tie game between the Commanders and the Giants was really big right there. Both of those teams, I definitely can see making into the playoffs if the Commanders don't lose any more games, and we'll talk about them when they get to it. But, yeah, NFC side is also looking very, coming down to the wire too. A lot of teams that are neck and neck between one another, even especially with the NFC South. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get started with the recap. We'll talk about some games, and if you're not done so already, I'll tell you guys again to do so. Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button down below. Leave a comment down below if you're enjoying it so far, and let me know about any more content that you would like for me to talk about moving forward. And please be sure to also hit the notification bell too, so that way, so that way you guys will be able to be in touch as far as like what's going on, how it's going, and so on and so forth. So that way, anytime I post new content, you guys will be aware. So do all those things. We'll all be fine. Like, subscribe, comment, and notification bell, and all will be good. Okay? So let's go ahead. I'm going to take a little bit of a sip too. And guys, if I seem like I'm a little off tonight or seem like I'm not my exact self, I apologize. I've just had a really long day today. In case you didn't know, I did some commentary work earlier this afternoon. I was at a wrestling tournament. In case you guys didn't know, I also do a lot of commentary work for high school wrestling matches near my area. So I've been doing that as of lately. Sometime down the road, I'll send that link to you guys too, so that way you guys can tune in and listen to me give my thing over about wrestling, because I love wrestling. And I want you guys to be able to subscribe to Garden State HS Wrestling too. Donald is a really good guy. Known him for a lot of years. Love calling matches with him. If you're able to help me out, help him out, all will be good in that. So please subscribe to his channel, Garden State HS Wrestling on YouTube, and look at the information that he's got, because he's got a lot of really good stuff going on there, and he's got a lot of good matches coming up soon. Too soon. So I'll keep you all posted with that as well. All right. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So straight up, I've been doing really well as of late the last couple of weeks. Same kind of record that I got last week in week 15. I went 10-6 this week. Had some good games that I projected very well. Some were just kind of by guess. Some of them I kind of lost, which I kind of thought I would have lost some of them, but was worth a shot. But my overall right now for straight up picks is 132, 103, and 2. And just and just as an FYI, I am not doing any against the spread predictions for this year, but that will be something for next year, and I'll be able to have better detail as far as how I do that and everything. So I'll keep track of that for next year. All right. So let's talk about my top 10 teams after week 16. So I apologize. It's week 16. I just haven't had the chance to change that graphic. All right. So here we go. We got number 10. We've got the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens somehow find a way to hold on to, they seem to hold on to for dear God life. I have no idea how they're doing it, but they're holding on to dear God life in the playoff race there. But they're at number 10. I don't know what else I can really say about the Ravens. I'm pretty sure Lamar may be trying to come back next week, if not the last week of the season against the Bengals. But this offense is just, they need a lot of work. The only reason why they even made the top 10 is just because of how pretty good their defense has been. And that's not any credit to Greg Roman whatsoever. He does not get any credit or deserve any credit. But their defense is just, they're good. They have a lot of depth on their team. The problem is they just don't have the coaching for it. Their defense has been playing fine. They just don't have an offense to get anything going. They have no receivers to throw to. And I know Tyler Huntley played in this game, and he threw a football to one of his receivers, which was like the first time I heard on NFL Red Zone, like it was like the first one in like several weeks. It was like something crazy like that. So the Ravens need a lot of work. They're really not going to go anywhere in the playoffs if they don't get these things fixed. I think at this point they just need to play for next year. Even if they make the playoffs, which they will. They'll be in the playoffs, obviously, but they got a lot of work they got to do if they want to be better and if they want to keep Lamar. So they're at number 10. But a team that has been coming on as of late, and I think they kind of deserved to get into my top 10 for this week at least, and hopefully moving forward, is the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't know about you, but this Chargers team, to me, I feel like is getting hot at the right time. And when I say they're getting hot at the right time, I'm talking like their defense. Their defense is just rock solid, and it shows you like when everybody is healthy for this Chargers team, especially on defense, and we know they had some real key injuries there on the offense this year. Their defense is just rock solid, man. For the last quite a few weeks, they've been playing really, really solid football. I know they've been playing great on defense against the Dolphins. They did a really good job covering them. They did an excellent job against the Colts. The Colts stink, and I forget who they played in between that. But yeah, their defense has just been coming to life. I think they're playing hot at the right time, and this is a defense that you kind of need moving forward. With the tough AFC, teams that you're playing against, and in the playoffs, you're going to need that. So, Chargers at number 9. Number 8 is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings obviously are going to make the playoffs. There's a reason why they dropped. Yes, they won, and good for them. I'm happy that they won. Not happy that they won against my Giants, but they won, and that was nice for them to see them beat the Giants. But at the same time, though, it wasn't a very pretty picture for them. Offense is not an issue. I keep telling you this, and I'll tell you again, it's their defense. Their defense is just not very good, and they continue to get worse and worse as the year progresses. So we'll see how they do next week, but it's going to be a tough one against Green Bay. Next, we got the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are probably going to drop off the face of the earth a little bit. They just lost their fourth straight game after, after 4 weeks ago where they were 8-3. They lost their fourth straight game, and without Tua, Tua had an off game. He's in concussion protocol. We'll talk about that when we get to it, but the Dolphins are kind of looking like they might slip away a playoff run here. I think we'll see what happens. I mean, they're still a very good team. Don't get me wrong. I think they're one of the fastest teams in the league. I think they have the best wide receiver duo in the league with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. But they're slipping away, and they're slipping away quick. And defensively, they haven't been very good this year on defense, with the exception of a couple of games. They've had a couple of good defensive games, but they're looking like they're slipping away. And they might dwindle down at the end of the year. So just as a heads up. Next, we got the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys, defensively, again, they're dealing with issues there. They're dealing with injury issues. Offensively, they kind of got it going. They did get it going a little bit, but I don't know how much of that was because of Dak or if it was because of the inconsistencies of the run defense or the defense of the Eagles as a whole, or the issue of the fact that, Jalen Hurts is not playing this game. But nonetheless, the Cowboys are still within the top 10, right at the cusp of the top 5 teams in the league. They might start to dwindle down a little bit because of those injuries that they're having. But right now, they're at number 6 for where they are. They showed up. They came to show up. They took advantage of the Eagles, who are a Super Bowl favorite. They're an NFC favorite, obviously. So they came in, they showed up, and they beat Gardner Minshew in that time. But Gardner Minshew is a very good backup. We'll talk about that when we get to that in a sec. But the Cowboys are at number 6. Number 5 is the Chiefs. The Chiefs probably could be lower than this, but I don't because of Patrick Mahomes. Yes, they beat the Seahawks, but they beat the Seahawks in a very unconvincing way, if that kind of makes a little bit of sense. The way I watch the Chiefs is just not, they're like the Vikings a little bit. I would say they're very similar to the Vikings. They have the offense that can get you wins. They'll plug away with, obviously Travis Kelce, the receivers of Juju Smith-Schuster. They can do a little bit of the run if they can get it going with McKinnon and Pacheco. But the defense is just so bad. I mean, I have no idea how they're winning some of these games with a trash defense that they have. The only thing they can get is some kind of pass rush in, but they have not been able to do that much as of late either. So, Chiefs are at number 5. Number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. You can make a legitimate argument that they could be above the Bills. You can make a legitimate argument if they're above the Eagles. I would say they're more likely or not. They could be above the Bills, and that will really determine next week when they both play each other. But the Bengals are at number 4. Guys, on the AFC side, the Bengals can definitely sneak away with a Super Bowl appearance again. They've got all the right tools. They've got the receivers. They've got the running back. They've definitely got the quarterback that they've never had in their franchise before. And they've got the defense. They're not a complete team, but they've got a lot of things, a lot of tools around them that can definitely scare you, and something that they can definitely tool around with if they really wanted to. I love this Bengals team. I'll be rooting for them. I'm hoping they go far in the playoffs until they play my number 3 team for this week and my Super Bowl pick for the year, the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the Bills had a very, very early, first half scare with the way they played against the Bears. It wasn't very pretty. But they came in the second half and they figured out what they needed to do, finally. They finally were able to figure out what they needed to do, and that was to run the ball. And that's exactly what they did in the second half. And they were effective with it. If they would just run the ball more, they would be the number one team in the league. But because they have not been able to be consistent, because they have not been able to figure that really out, to find like the fine tune and the balance between the pass and the run game, they're remaining at number 3. The Eagles are at number 2. They're still at number 2. I still think they're very good. I think they're still the team to beat in the NFC. But the reason why they're not at number 1 is just because of the inconsistencies. I mean, listen, this team is very talented. I'm not gonna, knock them down like that. They've got the talent. But defensively, just like with the way they played against the Cowboys, like the way they played against the Packers, if we see the defense like that from the Eagles play like they played against the Cowboys or the Packers and so on, this team is going to have a very hard time with winning the Super Bowl. However, if they play the defense that we saw them play against the Titans, that they played against the Colts, that they played against the Giants, and so on and so forth, then they could win a Super Bowl. But I just don't trust this defense. The defense has talent. They're solid. And they're way better than what they've been showing lately against teams like the Cowboys or the Packers. But they got to show that they can compete with the big dogs. I think once they play teams in the Super Bowl, if they play like the Bengals, the Bills, or the Chiefs, or even the Chargers, they're going to get tested very quickly. They're going to get tested very quickly to see whether or not they can compete with the big dogs. But the one team that is above the Eagles are the San Francisco 49ers, that I believe is going to be an NFC favorite and the only team in the NFC that I could see being a threat to the Eagles. Guys, I'm telling you, the 49ers, they have everything that you ask for. They've got defense. They can stop the run. They got a run defense. They've got a pass defense. They've got the offense. They've got Christian McCaffrey. They have George Kittle. And they're finally figuring out the quarterback situation. And it's Brock Purdy, the third-string quarterback, that I believe is going to be carrying this team moving forward. They are the most complete team and the best coaching staff in the NFL. You just can't go wrong with this team. This 49ers team has everything that a coach would want. They're at number 1. And that is my top 10 teams after week 16. So let's talk about some games. Let's talk about the Jets and the Jags. This game was pretty boring. I'm not going to lie. This game was extremely boring. So I don't have a whole lot to say about it except for the Jets side. Zach Wilson needs to go. And there's already rumors and articles, and I could definitely see this progressing and going on. Zach Wilson is going to get let go from the Jets. And can you blame the Jets for doing this? Can you blame Coach Saleh for doing this? No, you can't, because Zach Wilson is an utter embarrassment. It says right there in the title, Zach Wilson is an utter embarrassment. Listen, I was high on him this year. I thought this would have been the year in his sophomore year that he would have been able to turn things around. He probably would have worked on a lot of things during the offseason. He would have been a great leader. But with all these stories that came out before the season even started, like the whole situation with the girlfriend going after the girlfriend's friend's mom or something like that. Those kind of distractions. And then the way he's been playing this year and acting like a complete tool. Not willing to take any accountability for his team's losses. The guy is showing that he is not a franchise quarterback whatsoever. He's not even showing you why he should be a starting quarterback in the NFL. This Jets team, I am telling you guys, you put in a different quarterback like Mike White, who I don't believe is not much better than Zach Wilson, but someone like Mike White is a system quarterback that fits into the Jets system pretty well. They don't ask a whole lot for Mike White to do a whole lot. But when they ask him to do some things and to go and beyond to help this offense move the ball, he can do it. And he can do it effectively. Zach Wilson can't even make a check down pass. He can't even get a screen pass going. The guy is just not good. And I'm sorry to say it, but he's just not good. And he is going to he's going to become a bust as a first round pick for the Jets. And he was picked, I believe, number 2 overall. So that's telling you where the mistake lies here, is for the Jets taking Zach Wilson. But the Jets had to take a quarterback. And if I was the Jets, I would have done that 2021 draft all over again. Definitely would have skipped over Zach Wilson if I knew he was not going to be the NFL starter. But the fact of the matter is, it's over. It's done with. We're moving on now. He's an utter embarrassment. We'll see what we can try and get for the next draft. Let's go with Mike White and Joe Flacco, and let's just move forward. Because that is the best way that we can, as a Jets organization, as someone who's followed the Jets for a very long time, for pretty much my entire life, them and the Giants, it's time to start thinking of another quarterback going into the future draft. Because this guy is not the answer. It's very clear. I don't believe Mike White is going to be the official long-term answer, but he's a bridge quarterback that I think he can get you some wins. So Mike White will be playing this week. That might help the offense out a little bit when they go to play Seattle and the Seahawks this week in Seattle. And then when they play the Dolphins next week, they could be in some surprises right there. They could get at least 2 more wins before the end of the year. Maybe even sneak a playoff appearance in. Who knows? We'll see. But this guy's got to go. Now, about the Jags. We'll talk about the Jags too. Are they a playoff team? Well, according to the NFL and the way the playoff picture works, yeah, they are going to be a playoff team, the Jaguars. No question about it. Because I think the situation with the Titans, now that Ryan Tannehill is more than likely going to be out the rest of the season. And I think you might as well let him sit the rest of the season. But the Titans are now showing you that they need a lot more help than Derrick Henry running the show. The Jacksonville Jags are not my favorite team in the world. I'm not the biggest fans of them, but in key moments where I've liked the Jags this year, like them playing the underdog against like the Cowboys, the Ravens, and those kind of games, and against like the Chargers where they blew out the Chargers pretty much. They played well as the underdog this year. And I think they played better as the underdog than they have played when they've been the favorite. I don't love the Jacksonville Jags, but I believe they're going to win the division. I said it earlier in the year. They were kind of falling off a little bit. But I think now, with the season and the way that's turning out for them, I have no doubts that they will win the division of the AFC South. And they will be in the playoffs. Because I just don't think without the Titans, without Ryan Tannehill, they can't win any games with Malik Willis. If they couldn't beat the Texans, then they're not winning any more games the rest of the season, in my opinion. Because they got to play Dallas in Dallas. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They got to play the Cowboys. That's going to be in Tennessee, and that's going to be a tough game for them to win. And then they got to play the Jags again. It's going to be tough for them. it's going to be very tough for them to win again. But that's what we're looking at right now. I think the Jags can get in the playoffs. I think they should. And then the Jets need to get rid of Zach Wilson. And I think they will do that at the end of the year. All right. I don't have a lot to talk about in this game, the Ravens and the Falcons, but both offenses stunk in this game. I don't think either offense is very good. Desmond Ridder had a better game against this Ravens defense, which I was actually a little bit surprised because if he wasn't going to play good defense against he did against the Saints, then I wasn't expecting him to do anything much more with the Ravens because of how good the Ravens defense is and have been playing as of late. But both offenses are just bad. The Falcons got eliminated after losing to the Ravens, which isn't a surprise, and it's something that they needed to happen. We'll take a look and see next year where the Falcons will look. The Ravens, I think, yeah, they'll make the playoffs. Yes, they're going to, get a playoff appearance here, but I'm pretty sure the Ravens will be a one and done team because this offense can't do anything. And this is the kind of team of the Ravens I've told everybody since the beginning of the year. Maybe I didn't project them to make it to the playoffs. Maybe I had them lose quite a few games this year, have a losing season, or just be below at the losing end of the season. But I've told everybody already. The Ravens are just not that good of a team. They're showing you why they're not that good of a team. And the way that they're winning these games, the way that they've won 10 games is an absolute shock because the Ravens just can't run. They can run the ball. They're a run first team. They run the ball, but they don't always run it effectively. And when they do run it, it's not always because of the running backs of Gus Edwards, Kenyon Drake, or J.K. Dobbins. It's not because of the running backs. It's because of Lamar Jackson that has to run for them because Lamar Jackson is their best player. And he has no receivers to throw the ball to. Who are you going to throw the ball to? Devin Duvernay? Rashad Bateman, I'm pretty sure he's still on IR. Mark Andrews is really your only reliable target. And Mark Andrews has not really been involved that much this year in this offense. Not like he was last year, at least. And then you have Deshaun Jackson that you pick up. But Deshaun Jackson is older. He's 35 years old. And yeah, he can make big plays. If he's wide open, he's a deep threat. But other than that, who do you throw the ball to? Deshaun Jackson is not that reliable anymore. He's not young. He's not 22, 23 coming out of the woodwork. He's 35 years old. He's older. His body's not able to handle that many hits, that big hits like he could, like he used to. So they got to get a lot of things figured out, this Ravens team. Because if they think they can start winning games moving forward, if they think they can play the defense that they've been playing under Greg Roman, if they can start out the season that they did this year, then they got a lot of things that they got to think about. I like the Falcons' future. I think they've got what it takes to be like a kind of like an under the radar kind of a team. But as long as Desmond Ridder can fix his accuracy problems, if he can fix the mechanics of how he throws the football, and maybe get like another receiver or two in the draft, in free agency, they could be a pretty decent team. Like, I think they could be a team that could fight back. Like we know the Falcons like to run the ball, and they're effective with it, so they can continue to run the ball. But you need to get him at least another receiver. I know Drake London is the guy. We'll see how he does in year 2. But if you can get him another receiver that is reliable, that's someone that he can trust, and maybe build some chemistry off of, the team could be pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I thought the team was going to be like a a 1-16 team or a 2-15 team this year. I didn't expect them to have, this kind of a season, win 5 games like this, and start out the season the way that they did with Marcus Mariota. I wasn't expecting that at all. No way. But they did, and they've been doing all right. I mean, they're not that bad of a team, and it's good. It's good to see them, win some games for once. Sorry, I turned up the volume there on my phone a little bit, but yeah, I don't think they're that bad of a team. I really don't. But they got to fix up some problems here. I think they keep Arthur Smith for another year. I think that's the best option to do at this point. Moving forward, I think you keep Arthur Smith as the HC, and if he doesn't improve in year 3, then we find someone else. But I think you're doing a good job with Arthur Smith. I think he's kind of more like the under the radar kind of a coach that can sneak up behind just about anybody and beat just about anybody. If they fix those little issues, they could be good. They could sneak up on some teams. So I think the Falcons have a good future ahead of them. I think they can sneak away with some wins for next year, and who knows, maybe they'll find a way to maybe next year sneak away to get into the playoffs. But I think this is the year where you just kind of just lose the last couple of games, just not really really go all that much harder, and just bank it for next year. And then the Ravens, however, got to really think about what they're going to do as far as coaching goes, as far as players go. They got some things they got to figure out. And it's not that the Ravens are that bad of a team. They're really not. But the offense just needs work. And they need good coaching. And they don't have that great of coaching anymore that they once had. Especially defensive coordinator. Because I have no idea how the Ravens can let Wink Martindale just walk out the door the way that he did and building a sustainable defense with the Giants. I don't get how that happens, but the fact of the matter is it is. That's the way it is. And now they've got to suffer the consequences, and they got to start building a new team now. So that's where we're at for that. All right, I want to talk about this one, man, because this was the Lions' opportunity. And this isn't their only opportunity, because they've got at least 2 more games left in them to showcase what they can do. But this was a must-win game for the Lions, because this gave them a higher probability to making the playoffs. And for them to lose to the Panthers, now I'm not surprised that they lost to the Panthers. There's no question about it. I wasn't too keen. I wasn't that confident in thinking the Lions were going to come away and run away with this game. But the way that they lost to the Panthers, man, I mean, what a shame. I don't even know what the score was, like the final score for this game. It was 30. Okay, so it was 37-23. The Panthers ended up winning this game. Like, I just have no idea. And I mean, I have no idea how the last several weeks the Lions defense, especially at the run, were able to play effectively in the run game, especially when you have an excellent edge rusher of Aiden Hutchinson, and let these backups of the Panthers like Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard play the way that they did. Like, how does this happen? I have no idea. And that's no discredit to the Panthers whatsoever. But the Lions are a contender. Not a contender, but they're a team that's red hot. At least they've been red hot as of late. And they lose this game, where it's like one of the most important games of the year. And now this lowers their probability to making the playoffs. And this helps the Panthers out a lot with this win, because now by next week, they got to go play the Bucs in Tampa Bay. And if they win that game, it's more than likely that the Panthers will win that division, and they're going to win based off of their head-to-head victory breaker. Because if they win, they'll sweep the Bucs, and that's how they win. That's how they win that division. So these games are very crucial. And if you're a Bucks fan, you're rooting for the Lions to make the playoffs because they're out of your division. They're in your same conference, but they're out of your division. You don't want to play the Carolina Panthers if you're in the NFC South because this NFC South is not very good whatsoever. The Bucks have not played very well this year. The Saints definitely have not played all that great this year. And the Falcons had a decent start, but they're falling apart. And the Panthers had a bad start in the beginning with Baker Mayfield. Remember? They had a terrible start at the beginning of the year. But now the Panthers, since trading away Baker Mayfield, now you have Sam Darnold in there. They're looking like a team that could contend in the playoffs. They're not a team that I would want to really lay back on too much. This team can beat you in any given way. And I think their strongest suit here, especially if you have Sam Darnold in as quarterback, you run the ball. And you limit Sam Darnold to making mistakes. Because we know Sam Darnold is very mistake prone. He will throw interceptions. He will fumble the ball pretty easily. And not that he has done all of that as of late, but Steve Wilks is doing a good job of ensuring that he does not, that Sam Darnold does not force the ball in bad situations. And I do not like Ben McAdoo because of him being the head coach for the Giants. I do not like Ben McAdoo, but I'm giving him the credit that he does deserve in situations like this. After Matt Rule got fired from Carolina, and after they traded away Baker Mayfield, I think he's been working offensive playbooks much better under Sam Darnold than they've done with Baker. I think they screwed over Baker in a sense. I think that was more of like a Matt Rule thing. I think they screwed over Baker Mayfield totally. But at the same time, I think now you get rid of Baker. You look at the two other quarterbacks that you've got. You've got PJ Walker, which I don't believe is not the answer for this team long term. Had a couple of good games, of course, good for him. But he's definitely not your long-term answer. Sam Darnold I like Sam Darnold. I think he wins you games. I think he can be tougher than what he's, been able to do thus far in his NFL career because he got drafted to the Jets. But at the same time, too, the turnovers for him is an issue. And that's kind of something that Carolina saw from him last year that because he was terrible. Let's be honest, he was terrible last season. But, I think Ben McAdoo's worked under Sam Darnold. I think he's working with him well. And they're winning games. They're winning games at the right time, the right place. They're being given in a good position. So, the Panthers, I believe they're going to continue winning forward. I mean, I don't want to really pick against Tom Brady, but if there's anybody in that division that can beat, the Bucks right now that I would trust, I think the Panthers could. I'm not saying they will or they won't, but I think they're a team that could probably beat the Bucks in the division. So, just throwing that out there. All right, next. The Chiefs and the Seahawks game. Okay. Yes, the Chiefs' defense is still very bad. I'm not saying they're good whatsoever. They're still very bad. But they came through in this game. They played defense that, in some cases we know they can play. Okay? But at the same time, their defense is still not very good. And the defense in this game, ironically, was not the issue for the Chiefs for this week. It was mostly because of their offense. Like, I was expecting, Patrick Mahomes. I was expecting Jerick McKinnon or Isaiah Pacheco, to absolutely blow the doors, but keep it in a high-scoring affair off of the Seattle Seahawks. I thought it was going to be an offensive explosion, but I thought that this team would have scored at least, or close to 40 points. And keep it as a high-scoring affair. The fact of the matter is they didn't. I don't put that blame so much on, you know, as a football fanatic, as someone that follows football, religiously, I'm just putting the facts out there is that, if neither defense is good, but how does your defense, and when I'm talking about yours, I'm talking about the Chiefs defense, how does your defense, the Chiefs defense, able to get stops against Geno Smith and the Seahawks, but you're not able to score any points on Seahawks defense that's worse than yours? Like, I don't understand how that worked out. I have no idea how that worked out for them. But I felt like they left a lot of points on the board. A lot of points off the board. And now, looking at the Chiefs and what they are, I kind of think in a way the Seahawks kind of in a way. I think the Texans kind of did that last week. But I feel like the Chiefs now are finally like getting exposed by some of these weaker teams. The Seahawks, the Texans, you name it. The Broncos, they're getting exposed now because these teams are figuring out how to beat the Chiefs. They're figuring out how to beat the Chiefs because of their defense and because of what they know what the Chiefs are made of. They know what this offense is made of the Chiefs. It's not anywhere as electrifying as it once was. Let's put it that way. It's really not. But the way that they keep playing these games is because defenses have difficulty stopping Patrick Mahomes. The only kind of defenses that I feel like matches up well and really is a tough matchup for Patrick Mahomes and keeps him out of the game and keeps him off the field are teams like the Bengals, the Bills, maybe even the Patriots could have, could be a difficulty for Patrick Mahomes. And I think as long as he's been in the league, it's been difficulty. It's been difficult for him. But when they get these figured out, these defenses and these defensive coaches get that figured out about Patrick Mahomes and they study up on him, like, you're winning the game. You are absolutely positively winning that game against the Chiefs because you figured out the cheat code. You figured out how to stop Patrick Mahomes. You figured all of that stuff out. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to play good defense. You've got to read up on Patrick Mahomes. And if you do all those things, you win the game. Hands down. You can beat him. The Chiefs are a beatable team. They really are truthfully a beatable team. But not enough teams beat them because they can't stop Patrick Mahomes of making magic. And if more of these defenses played like they did, like the Seahawks defense played against the Chiefs this weekend, or like the Bills or the Bengals, that kind of matches up well with them and give Mahomes difficult time. More defenses like that, the Chiefs would not win as much. So in a way, the Chiefs are pretty lucky to have the record that they have. Now, do I believe that they'll still make the Super Bowl? Are they still a Super Bowl contender? Yes, they are a Super Bowl contender still. I think they should still be considered a Super Bowl favorite for sure. But when they play the Bengals, when they play the Bills, it's a whole different ball game for them. Maybe even the Chargers, if they get a chance to play the Chargers, could be very different for them. Very difficult for them. And these are teams that have figured out the cheat code. These are teams that figured out the best way possible to beat Mahomes and company. All right, I don't want to say a whole lot on this one, but Alvin Kamara, I have no idea where Alvin Kamara has been all year, but played a pretty solid game against the Browns here. They did a good job with getting him involved. They got him to run the ball quite a bit, scored a touchdown. I think anytime when Alvin Kamara is in this offense and you get him involved in the passing and the running game for the Saints, you're winning games. Let's put it at that. It was not a very pretty game for either team. I think the Saints have a lot of work to do. I think they're working for next year at this point in the season because they're not making the playoffs. I don't believe they are. And the Deshaun Watson is just, exactly what I expected Deshaun Watson to be. He's struggling. He can't get anything going. The only thing he can do really is move around outside of the pocket, make some big yardage. That's really all he can do. But the Browns will get it figured out next year, I think, or at least you would hope. Deshaun Watson will be, better. He'll have better connection with these receivers next year. They'll get it figured out. But I think that 11-game suspension for Deshaun Watson was something that obviously needed to happen. But at the same time, too, in Deshaun Watson's case, didn't get a lot of playing time whatsoever and didn't get enough time to learn his receivers or this offensive playbook. I just don't understand why, as far as like him in his case, of like why has he not been studying up on this offensive playbook since he was suspended. But I don't know. I digress. But I don't want to keep talking about this game too long here because it was kind of a worthless game to really talk about because neither team is making the playoffs. All right, next we are talking about the Bengals and the Patriots. Let's talk about this game because I really, really, really liked this matchup. And I even talked about this matchup in my predictions for last week. I liked this matchup a lot. So, and it kind of went the way that I thought it was going to go, but not the way that it started. And I'll talk about that. So the Bengals jumped out. I believe if this Bengals offense had not made a whole lot of mistakes, or if the Patriots defense were to have been much more, aligned with what was going on at the time, I think the Patriots could have found a way and beat the Bengals. And the reason why I say that is because we're taking a look at what the Patriots defense did do. I mean, yeah, they couldn't stop Joe Burrow in the beginning with the first 2 touchdowns he passed to. The biggest difference maker in those game, that game for sure was because of Evan McPherson. He missed 2 extra points. He missed 3 extra points in this game because of how cold the weather was in Foxborough, Massachusetts. It's that simple. That made the big difference in the game. 2 really quick touchdowns in the first quarter rather. Could have been 18, 19, nothing, probably at the end of the first quarter, but there was mistakes in there. And, that happens. Some teams do make mistakes. But at that point, I believe it was 22-0 at the half. I believe it was the Bengals. So the Bengals were moving the ball relatively well. I think they were moving the ball relatively well. The defense was playing excellent, in my opinion. The Patriots had no answers for them on offense. They had no answers whatsoever. So it was 22-0 at the half. Bengals were up 22-0. Great. So they were up 22-0. Joe Burrow had a pick in that first half there. Had some touchdowns there to T. Higgins and Trenton Irwin at the time. The guy was playing great. He was playing awesome football, but despite that one interception. Playing excellent football and Ed McPherson got a field goal in there, Great job by him. So they went into the locker room. They got everything figured out. And it was the Patriots football game at the time. So, 22-0 at half. Bengals were winning. And I thought the Patriots had adjusted very well to the game. They figured out what kind of situation they were. They put themselves in a position to come back after a pick 6 from Marcus Jones, who ran it all the way back for a touchdown. And that gave the Patriots momentum on both sides of the ball. The defense was playing excellent. They adjusted much better. They were able to, cover T. Higgins. I think that was the most important thing for this Patriots defense to really cover up on and look up to was T. Higgins, because that was the main target for the day, was him. They didn't really get Jamar Chase get too involved in this offense, so that's good. They were covering him up very well. And Mac Jones, it was not a pretty start for Mac Jones whatsoever. It was not a pretty start for him in the first half. But they adjusted well to Mac Jones in the second half. I thought Mac Jones had a heck of a game in the second half. I thought he played a much better game against the Bengals than he did against the Raiders the week before. I truthfully really do. So he had a couple nice touchdown passes there. Had one really, really weird one that wasn't exactly intended for Jacoby Myers, but it was intended to another receiver on the team. It was a deep ball. I think it was like the furthest I've ever seen Mac Jones threw the ball. It was a 3rd and 29. They needed to go for a deep ball. So something, why not chug it down the field, see what you can get out of it. The receiver missed the ball. He didn't get any kind of grip on it whatsoever, but it was like a batted down pass, and Jacoby Myers just happened to be in the area, and he ran it in for a touchdown. He got in for a touchdown. It was something I haven't quite seen in quite some time, but at the same time, it was something that helped the Patriots' momentum. However, the one thing that hurt them, that I think kept them out of the game, was Nick Folk, and it was not his fault. It was not his fault because the weather was absolutely positively crappy the entire weekend. Misses that extra point. It was a crucial extra point there. So I blame the weather. I blame Mother Nature for that. So they missed the extra point. Now it's 22-18. So the Patriots are coming back. And, Joe Burrow had some turnovers. He had some picks in there. Some fumbles that happened in there and so on and so forth. So, we're getting towards the end of the game here. We're getting close to Cincinnati territory, and they did. They're running the ball effectively with Ramondre Stevenson, and they did that very well. And then they lost it. Within the 2-minute warning, they fumbled the ball. Stevenson fumbled the ball. The Bengals recovered it. And, that was pretty much ball game right there. Patriots did have 3 timeouts. They did force the Bengals to punt the ball away, and which they did. But there was no chance that the Patriots were going to come away with the victory after Stevenson fumbling that ball. So that totally ruined their momentum of making a comeback. And I think it was very well possible for the Patriots to have that big comeback there. So I believe it was one of the better games I believe the Patriots have played offensively. But I don't think it was all because of offense, because their offense was not very good in the first half. I think it was just the defense. I think that pick 6 from Marcus Jones was the huge difference maker in this entire game. And for the Patriots, it swung the momentum for the Patriots. It went towards their way. And that kind of played a little bit of mind games there with the Bengals. And the Bengals could have easily have lost this game. Without some of those turnovers, looked like it was going to be a runaway for the Bengals. I thought it was looking like that was going to be a runaway. I thought T. Higgins would have dropped me a nice 50-point game for me in fantasy. But that just did not happen to be the case, though. It was a tight game. The Patriots defense did everything right in the second half. They kept themselves in the game. They just couldn't close it out on offense. And that's something that the Patriots need to look into for, moving forward as far as the draft goes, as far as, the free agency goes, and so on and so forth. And, and I'm looking at Facebook posts, and I just want to mention this real quick. It's not off topic. It really isn't. But can we please stop blaming Mac Jones for your failures? Can we please stop blaming Mac Jones? I get it. The guy has not played well this year. I get it. But take a look at the offensive coordinator that he has. That's not even an offensive guy. Matt Patricia. This is what's ruining Mac Jones's career. It's this guy, Matt Patricia. He doesn't make or adjust or accommodate anything to what Mac Jones is good in. It's all play action passes. It's something that Mac Jones is not used to. Under Josh McDaniels, the way he played under Josh McDaniels a year ago was perfect for him, and it worked out perfect. It was the same offensive playbook that Tom Brady worked in with. And this is the same exact one that Mac Jones played with last year. And it was something he gelled well with. They need to get an offensive coordinator in. I believe they're going to by next year. There had been some rumors that Bill O'Brien will come back to the Patriots next year to be the offensive coordinator. I don't think Bill O'Brien is really much of an upgrade over Matt Patricia, or at least not that much. But he's an offensive guy. He'll know exactly what he needs to do. And they need to work around Mac Jones. Look at the talent that Mac Jones and this Patriots offense has around them. Who does he have to throw the ball to? And who does he have that can protect him on the offensive line? They don't have anybody. That should be the answer. They don't have anybody to protect Mac Jones. And I guarantee you, for those who want to see Bailey Zappi play, I'm sorry, but Bailey Zappi is not anywhere better than Mac Jones is. He does not separate much from what Mac Jones is. He's very similar, but he does not show you any kind of separation. I don't see much of a difference. I don't see how he's any better than Mac Jones. I don't see how he would have progressed any better than Mac Jones. I really don't. Because there's no talent on this Patriots offense. There is none besides Ramondre Stevenson. The only thing they can do. And then the run and the receivers that they have, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne is the only good receiver, but this Patriots offense refuses to use him. They don't have the talent that they once had under Tom Brady. They just don't. They don't have like a receivers that he's once had, like a Brandon Cooks. He doesn't have Rob Gronkowski. He does not have someone like a good slot receiver like Julian Edelman. He doesn't have a Danny Amendola. He doesn't have those kind of receivers that Tom Brady has had. He just doesn't. We just need to stop blaming Mac Jones for the Patriots' offense issues. And he needs to stop being the scapegoat. The scapegoat is exactly what Mac Jones is. It's the scapegoat for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Like, it just needs to stop. The guy's not a bad quarterback. If I wanted him right now, I would pick him up because I know the talent that he has. But I would build a team around him. And then if he doesn't build to his potential with the best team that is built around him, then you make different decisions moving forward. But you can't do it unless you try to build a team around him. You get another good receiver for Mac. Another, like, at least one good, a true number one receiver for him. Then it would be a whole different story. It would be a whole different ball game for Mac. But they don't. They refuse to work around Mac Jones. I don't understand it. They're showing their incompetence. The Patriots organization, they're showing incompetence here. They're showing incompetence as an organization, as a coaching staff, to a player perspective. They just have no clue what this guy is made of, and they do not want to try to work with it. That's all I'm going to say on that before I get on a tangent. So, next one we got, the Vikings. The Vikings and the Giants. I'm going to talk about this game. First things first, the Vikings, congratulations, you won the game. That's awesome. You won the game barely, by the skin of your teeth, by 3 points. It was like a 27-24 last-second field goal by Greg Joseph. You won the game. That's awesome. Good for you, especially in your home field, your home turf field. But let's talk about the Giants, though. I want to talk about the Giants in this case. Yeah, the Giants lost. And, of course, obviously, as a Giants fan, that definitely hurts. Because that may or may not hurt your chances in the playoffs. But at the same time, you look at the playoff hunt. You take a look at the teams that they have and what they have to play left. Like, take a look at that tie against the Commanders. Obviously, would have been nice if the Giants had won that game too and they would have swept the Commanders. That would have been a whole different story. But that tie helps the Giants out because it's not a win, it's not a loss, it's a tie. That helps the Giants out pretty well. And even with this loss here, yeah, this is a hurtful loss. But take a look at what the Giants have to play next. They got to play the Colts. And after the Colts, they got to play the Eagles last. This could be in a good position for them to make it to the playoffs. I think they beat the Colts in their home stadium because the Colts stink. I think they might lose to the Eagles too, depending on whether or not Jalen Hurts is going to come back in the regular season. I think he's going to. Maybe I don't think there's really any point. So they might sit some players there. So the Giants might be able to win that game too against the Eagles if they decide to rest their players, which I think they should. And let's see what Gardner Minshew can do. Because, the Giants, this loss hurts, but the fact of the matter is it's a good loss. And this loss doesn't really hurt them either way. Because you take a look at the last two games, the Colts, they should be able to beat the Colts. And then they've got the Eagles, which they could beat if the Eagles decide to sit all their players. And the Giants will need to play all their starters in order to earn a playoff spot. Doesn't really hurt them in a way if you think about it in that sense. The Vikings, obviously, yeah, this clinched the division for them for sure. So, obviously they're making the playoffs. As far as seeding goes, I think they're going to cling around, number 2, maybe number 3, I believe, depending on whether or not they lose the next 2 games. And they got to play Green Bay in Green Bay, I believe. I believe that game is in Green Bay. Yes, it is in Green Bay. And then they got to play Detroit once more in Green Bay. So they got 2 more games left in Green Bay. And I'm sorry. The Packers have to play in Detroit. The Vikings have Green Bay in Green Bay. They have to play the Packers there. And then they got to play the Chicago Bears in Chicago. So we're looking at a possible worst here for the Vikings, 12-5. And I think that's very well possible that they lose next week to Green Bay, and it's well possible they could lose to the Bears too, because it's in Chicago. That's a tough place to play, and Kirk Cousins doesn't typically play well in Chicago. So those are 2 games that I think the Vikings could potentially lose that might drop them to the number 3 seed, which wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But if the Vikings and the Giants end up winning, if the Giants cling on to that number 6 spot in the playoffs, we could see another Vikings-Giants matchup. And, with the Giants coming around with the way that they are, that could be a nice, a win-win situation for the Giants. They could potentially win that game. So I personally think we could potentially see another Giants-Vikings, potential game right here. I truly believe so. We might see, the Giants might be able to see the Vikings again, if I'm not mistaken. I think they can kind of, we'll talk more about it when I do my predictions for tomorrow night. But I think it's very well possible that the Vikings could lose those last 2 games. If not, go 1-1, lose to Green Bay, or lose to Chicago, and then either beat Green Bay or beat Chicago, and then they'd be 1-1. I think that's possible to do at the end of the last 2 weeks there. We could be clinging around like a 13-4 or a potential 12-5 record for the Vikings. So the Vikings, I am concerned about the Vikings. I'm not concerned so much as far as what they can do in the passing game. I don't think that's an issue whatsoever. But besides Patrick Peterson on that defensive side and Harrison Smith, maybe, the Vikings defense is trash. They're barely winning games as it is. They somehow found a way to beat the Colts after being down 33-0. And then they found a way to beat the Giants that they struggled with pretty much the entire game. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. This defense is just absolute trash. And that's why they concern me too. And that's why I say the Giants could potentially beat them when it comes playoff time if these 2 teams play in the playoffs. Because of just this defense, of the Vikings defense. Guys, when you watch the Vikings play, I liked the Vikings this year. I still like them. I love Kirk Cousins. I like Justin Jefferson a lot. I love Justin Jefferson. I like Dalvin Cook. But I've just got to tell you, and I got to be straight up honest with you, they don't get this defense straightened out, they're not going anywhere in the playoffs. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to go to the Super Bowl. They don't get this defense figured out, they're not going anywhere. And this is the exact defense that we're looking at right now for the Vikings, that I don't see them really going anywhere because they just can't stop anybody whatsoever. They can't stop a run. They can't stop a pass. Guys, this Vikings defense can't stop anybody. They give up way too many yardage, And not only do they give up too many scoring points, but yardage. Like the last several weeks, they gave up at least like 400 yards of offense. That's insane to give up. Insane to give up in a multiple weeks time frame. It's just something that can't happen. And for a team that's 12-3 right now, like you expect more out of this team. But it's an offensive league now. Defense doesn't always matter, but when it comes to playoff times, it does matter. You need that defense to come through to you. They'll need that kind of a defense when they go into the playoffs and they got to play in the wild card round because they're the only team, I believe, that's a division winner that could potentially lose the first round. And it's all going to be because of that defense. So with that being said, they got to figure out their defensive situation, especially going into next year. And they got to find a good defensive coordinator that can get this defense going. Because this team is not going to go anywhere. And they're a good team, but if they just fix up on those problems, they could be good. They could be a much better team. But they don't fix on that defense. All right, next we talk about the Bills and the Bears. Obviously, a very slow, very sluggish games for the Bills at the start. It was like 10-6 at the half. Josh Allen threw an interception in the red zone, which he's thrown multiple interceptions this year in the end zone and in the red zone altogether. It was 10-6 at halftime. Stephon Diggs did virtually nothing. He was not anywhere involved whatsoever. They've got a lot of issues, the Bills. I mean, obviously, defense is still, a virtue. They're still good at times when they want to be. I thought they played pretty good against the Bears. I'm not going to lie. I think defensively they played a good game against the Bears. They didn't give up as much of the running game as I thought they would have. I thought Justin Fields and David Montgomery and all of them, I thought they would have really been able to run all over the Bills defense. But I thought the Bills did a pretty good job with sustaining Fields and sustaining Montgomery. I thought they did a really nice job with that, given with what they have and given, some of the defensive players that they're out with, especially with Von Miller. They got some issues on the defense. They've got some injuries there. And take a look at this guy right here. You guys know who number 26 is for the Bills? That's Devin Singletary. Guys, when you have Devin Singletary run the ball, you have him, you have James Cook, and obviously you have Josh Allen rushing the ball. You can run the ball on the ground, and you do it effectively, and you stick with that kind of game plan, you can possibly win some games if you switch up the playbook a little bit. And that's exactly what the Bills did in the second half. The Bills in the first half did absolutely nothing but just play defense. They had to bank it all out on their defense. Then you look into the second half here, and you take a look at the way that they're playing. Obviously, they're making adjustments. They're figuring out what they're going to do. And I give them credit. I know Stephon Diggs kind of screwed me over in that playoff game that I had this weekend. But, I digress about that. But I'm taking a look at the realistic standpoint here. If the Bills want to go to the Super Bowl, they want to beat teams like the Chiefs, the Bengals, you name it. They want to beat those kind of teams. They've got to mix it up. They can't just rely on Josh Allen to throw the ball every single time. They can't rely on Josh Allen to be the whole team, to carry this whole team on his back, to make the big throws, to run the ball all the time if there's nobody open. You need to have consistency in the run game. Devin Singletary is not that bad of a running back. He's no Derrick Henry. He's no Christian McCaffrey, but he ain't that bad, right? He's really not. And if you can get him involved, he's pretty effective when he needs to be. I don't love James Cook, but he had a nice game. He was able to get some yards per carry here, like Devin Singletary. Like, get the running backs involved. You switch up the playbook like the Miami Dolphins did. Remember, the Miami Dolphins did not have a run game either, like the Bills earlier in the year. Well, guess what? The Dolphins now have Raheem Mostert. They have Jeff Wilson. They can run the ball now. And they do a good job with switching up the plays. If the Bills could do that, they win championships. They'll win games. And now, obviously, doing it against the Bears is not that impressive. But when you're adjusting and knowing what's not working well for you, and you go to plan B with running the ball and you know you can be effective there, got to take advantage of it. And that's where the Bills took advantage. They made halftime adjustments and it paid off. That's why they ended up winning 35-13. All right, I talked about it earlier. I'm not going to talk about it a whole lot. But the Titans are in serious trouble. And I don't believe they're going to pull it out to win the AFC South. I'm being brutally honest with you. It's just not happening. I'm sorry to say this to anybody, but they're not going to. They're not winning the division. It's going to end up being Jacksonville. The only other team that I think is better than the rest of the AFC South. Obviously, the Texans aren't going to, and neither are the Colts. I don't think the Titans are going to do it. Because the Titans have to play the Cowboys, and then they got to play the Jags again. Even if they went 1-1, I still think the Jags could do it. I still think the Jags will end up winning it. Because you just can't bank on Derrick Henry to bail you out every single time. So, it'll be tough, but they're in serious trouble. They need to start looking into what they can do to close out the season and, find out what they can do for next year. All right. The Washington Commanders, Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, they played the 49ers this weekend, who will be starting a quarterback next week. Obviously, the Commanders have a quarterback battle between Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz. They played both quarterbacks in the game against the 49ers. I don't think, obviously, no matter who you put in a quarterback, I think this 49ers defense is just way too good. I don't really understand what the purpose of making a quarterback change really is going to do for this team. I understand it, that you want to provide a spark. That's what a lot of teams want to do. I know Mike Tomlin did that this year with Mitchell Trubisky and benched him for Kenny Pickett in the second half. Like, I understand what you're trying to look at for here, but I just think the team runs better under Taylor Heineke. When I watch Carson Wentz play against the Commanders, like when he plays with the Commanders for this team and he takes over this offense, he's exactly the kind of guy that he was with the Eagles this last year. He's the kind of guy that's kind of similar to what we saw the Colts at the end of the year when he played with the Colts last year. Like, I just don't see the purpose of having a quarterback battle at this point in the season, knowing with what you're given with Carson Wentz. Like, I feel like the team just does not have the same connection with Wentz that they do with Heineke. So, who do I think will be the starting quarterback? To be quite honest with you, I think they're gonna roll with Taylor Heineke, in my honest opinion. I know Ron Rivera does not want to speak. I know he does not want to really really give out any more details as far as how that goes and everything like that. But the reason why I think it's going to be Taylor Heineke, because obviously making that quarterback change in the earlier part of the year, obviously is very crucial. But once Taylor Heineke took over, he was the reason why this team was winning the games that they were winning. And regardless of how good or bad the teams were that they've been playing, the offense, the team, the coaching staff just has a better respect for Heineke than they do with Wentz. And there's a difference between Heineke and Wentz. I like the way that Heineke plays with grit. He plays with integrity. He plays with heart. And when he makes big plays, he's excited about it. I don't see that really with Carson Wentz. I really don't. And I'm just being truthfully honest, being truthful with all of you. I don't see that with Carson Wentz. Taylor Heineke is like a born to be winner, to be a winner, born to be a winner. You take him out, the whole dynamic of the team is going to change. So you're better off starting Heineke, seeing what he can do for you. Think he could sneak you in a playoff spot here if you can beat the Cowboys, and if you can win your one other game beforehand too. I don't even know who they play. Next week. I don't think. Do I know who they play? Oh, no, they play the Cowboys. The last week. Yeah, I don't quite remember who they play next week. But stick with Taylor Heineke. That's all I gotta say. Coach Rivera, stick with Taylor Heineke. All right, the Cowboys, man. How about them boys? They found a way to win it. Defensively, I'm very, very worried about this defense. Okay, I'm very worried that this Cowboys defense is not going to make it. And they could be a potential team that could be a one and done deal. If they played exactly the way that they did against the Eagles, against the way they played against the Jags, this team will have its difficulty of going back. Like, I'm sorry, I just believe it's going to be rather difficult for the Cowboys to really make anything happen if their defense does not get anything started. And if it wasn't for CeeDee Lamb making all those big throws, making all thhave big time catches, getting himself open, exposing the Eagles defense that they are, there would have been no way that Dak would have put up a good game that he did. And it looked like the Eagles were going to have a runaway game. I really thought the Eagles were going to have a runaway game here, especially after that pick six from the Eagles defense. But ever since then, the Cowboys was just starting to click on offense. They were getting everything going. And again, like I said, it's not the fault of Minshew. I don't think Minshew played a bad game whatsoever. I thought he played just as well of a game as Jalen Hurts would have played, if I'm being honest with you. I don't blame Gardner Minshew for the loss. I don't blame the receivers for the loss. I don't blame the offense whatsoever for the loss. I just blame it on defense. And this is like a very similar kind of situation that we saw with the Eagles when they played against the Packers. This is the kind of game we saw them play when they played against the Washington Commanders. They let up way too many points to good offenses. They let up way too many points at times, especially when they let points go off, in the run game. And that's exactly what they did against the Packers. They let up way too many points. Way too many points against the Packers. Which is just utterly insane of how much they gave up. And I felt like it was a team that they could have easily blown out at that earlier ladder of the game, of the year. Could have easily blown out the Packers. But the inconsistencies of the defense, that's what happens. So the Cowboys moving forward and the Eagles moving forward. The Eagles are still obviously favored to be in the Super Bowl and possibly winning it. Obviously, the Cowboys are favored to be like an underdog in the playoffs. But if they don't get these situations figured out, the Eagles don't get their inconsistencies of their defense figured out. They don't, and the Cowboys don't get figured out with what their identity is going to be, and they don't figure out the injuries that's going on in this defense. These two teams could be in some serious trouble, and maybe miss the playoffs. Not miss the playoffs, but they could miss the Super Bowl appearance. Just being brutally honest about that. So, a good offensive explosion for both teams, I thought at least. I thought they both kind of deserved some credit where credit was due. I think Dak, despite the first quarter appearance that he played in, I thought he turned it around, made some adjustments into this offense, and had a pretty good game overall. I thought Mike McCarthy called a pretty good game for the Cowboys. And the Eagles also played very well, too. I think offensively, they still have it in them to be a scary team on offense. They really do. But the defense, I'm telling you, I know it's an offensive league and everything like that, but you also got to play the defense, too, in order to be successful. That's just the way it works, and that's the way that's going to be moving forward. All right. The Steelers and the Raiders, I don't want to talk about this game too long, but the Steelers and the Raiders. The Raiders, another game they led. They led the entire game, and they just blew this game away. Obviously, it was weather. The weather did not help whatsoever. But at the same time, though, too, and I don't blame it on play calling, I just think Derek Carr just had a very, very off game. And I think it was just because the Raiders aren't used to playing in these kind of typical weather conditions that they played in and they faced on Saturday night, Christmas Eve. But the fact of the matter is they did. And this might cost them a playoff appearance because of this loss to the Steelers. The Steelers did not play well either. I don't think so. I think they left to be quite honest with you, I think if the weather was in better conditions, this game would have been totally different. And I feel like the Steelers would have they left a lot of points on the field. Because I feel like scoring more than 13 points and scoring your first touchdown with 45 seconds left in the fourth, I feel like you left a lot of points on the field. I think that was typically really for both teams, to be quite honest with you, but mostly the Steelers, I feel like they really left off a lot of points. And I really think the weather conditions make a whole wide world difference. So do I think the Steelers earn a playoff spot here? They got to play the Ravens and they got to play the Browns. I don't personally see it in my own opinion. I think they're going to get a losing season for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career as the head coach for the Steelers. I don't believe they're going to get a playoff spot, and I don't truthfully believe I don't believe the Raiders are going to get a playoff spot either, and I think this loss definitely hurt them. Not just this loss, but other losses earlier in the season that really hurt them a lot. The Cardinals loss, the Chiefs loss, the Jaguars loss, and now this one's a big blow for them too. You know, if those 4 games were typically won by the Raiders, it would have changed the whole momentum of their season. But based off of those 4, double-digit leads in the game, each of these games, maybe not this particular game here, but yeah, the Raiders are in some trouble. I think they missed the playoffs by the skin of their teeth because they have other competition that they've got to hope that also loses, like the Patriots. They got to hope the Patriots lose to the Dolphins. They got to hope that the Jets lose to the Seahawks. They got to hope that the Jaguars lose this week, too. I forget who they play, but they got to hope that the Jaguars lose. Like, they got to hope that some of these teams lose to help them get into playoff position. But the fact of the matter is, it's just not going to happen. The Raiders should have been winning some of these games that they had in the bag and easily could have won, but they didn't. So, this hurts them a lot. All right, so I want to talk about this game here. So, the Packers and the Dolphins game, this was in Miami. I want to talk about this game a little bit. I don't typically blame, obviously, I thought that the Dolphins defense, I think the way they covered the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, forced some turnovers and forced an interception from Aaron Rodgers. I thought the Packers defense played a pretty darn good game. I really did. Besides, obviously with Tua and his concussion protocol, we're gonna talk about that in a bit. But I thought the Packers defense and I believe the Dolphins defense both played really well. I think they both did a really good job of covering. I think they did a really good job with doing all those sort of things too. I think that the Packers' defensive performance was more of a fluke, in my opinion. They were doing, the Dolphins, if you watch the first drive of the game, I feel like, with watching what they did in the first 2 quarters of the game, I thought they were running the ball effectively, and I'm talking about the Dolphins. I thought they ran the ball effectively. It was working. And something that we all know that the Packers are very susceptible to is against the run. So I thought the Dolphins' run game got really, really hot in the first quarter of the game. And then they just kind of slowly disappeared away from that. And I don't quite understand why that really happened. I don't know why they shied away from the run game. I think that would have made a whole worldwide difference if they would have stuck with the run game with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. I think Jeff Wilson had the better game, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, too, I mean, I get they want to get the Tua, the Tua game going here with Jalen Waddle. I get that, and he wants to get Tyreek Hill involved in the offense. I get that. But something that the Packers do pretty well in defensively, I don't like their defense at all. I don't think Joe Barry's a good defensive coordinator for this team. But what the Packers do typically do well in is they can cover the receivers. They do cover them very well. And I thought, they were able to cover, with what they could. And I think the reason why Tua threw those 3 interceptions, had those turnovers that cost them the win, I just think the Dolphins are putting Tua's life in jeopardy. I really do. Because this is the 3rd time already this year that he's in concussion protocol. I don't think he's going to play the rest of the year. And I think this really hurts the chance for the Dolphins to make the playoffs. Because they got to go out to New England and they got to play the Patriots next week. And then they got to come back down to Miami and they got to play the Jets. Another really good defense. So the Dolphins are in a sticky situation here where they might lose. They might lose both of those games, especially now that Tua is in concussion protocol. He may not pass it. He may not even get a chance to play the rest of the year. And that's going to give the game over to Teddy Bridgewater, which I think Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup quarterback for the Dolphins. But the problem is he's playing, and if he does play Teddy Bridgewater, in the last 2 games of the season, he's playing 2 really good defenses. Is Teddy Bridgewater going to overcome those 2 losses? And we also got to keep in mind, too, that Teddy Bridgewater is also injury prone. That we've seen, especially dating back to his early days with the Vikings. So, with that being said, this is the Dolphins' chance to make the playoffs, but if Tua does not clear concussion protocols, this puts their season in jeopardy. And not only does it put their season in jeopardy, but this also hurts the future of Tua Tagovailoa. Just want to throw that out there, that this could affect his future. Because we know early in the season when he played against the Bills, with the way he left the game and came back, and they tried to tell everybody that it was his back that he hurt, and that's not the case whatsoever. And then the way he came back and played the game was not his prettiest game. And then the way that he played against the Bengals, where nearly could have definitely paralyzed him, for sure, came back way too soon. I really truthfully believe that the Miami organization is putting Tua's life in jeopardy. And not only his life, but his career too. So I have no idea what they're going to do. This might affect their season. This might affect their season. And it would be a shame that the organization and coaching staff cares more about getting a win than they would care about the life and death and the health of Tua. We'll move on from that. All right, a couple more games left I want to talk about, then we'll sign off. The Broncos and the Rams. Broncos stink. We all know that. Was not expecting the Rams to score 51 points, especially under Baker Mayfield. But the fact of the matter, they did. And not only did they do that, but they did it on Christmas Day. So another really bad game for the Broncos. Nathaniel Hackett got fired too. I'll throw that out there too. He got fired after a 4-11 start. So I believe the Broncos from here. Okay. Now that we know that Nathaniel Hackett is not coming back. Sean Payton, I believe, if I was the Denver Broncos, I was the GM, I would be giving Sean Payton a call. Because I want a coach that is an offensive mind, and I want a coach that knows exactly how to be a leader of men. I would take Sean Payton. I probably would take Frank Reich. Two available coaches right now. Those are two available coaches right now that I would personally take to work with this Denver offense. Because this Denver offense, this play calling for the Broncos is an absolute travesty. They are an absolute mess. And I want to look into Russell Wilson too and seeing, well, we've got that big contract extension for Russell Wilson, and we were betting pretty much our entire franchise on him. You know, we got to work something out with him. We got to get him to an offense that he's used to, that he knows very well, and we got to get him the better play caller. We got to get him a play caller. And Nathaniel Hackett was just not the guy that was able to do it. And I'm being quite truthful with you. I have no idea why the Broncos would decide to fire Hackett with only 2 games left of the season, right around Christmas time, and not have fired him earlier in the season. Like, I just have no idea how he lasted as long as he did. I'm sure Nathaniel Hackett is a good guy. I believe he's a really good guy. He may have been a good offensive coordinator under Aaron Rodgers, but just is absolutely just positively not working out with the Broncos, and it's not working out with Russell Wilson. So, Frank Reich, Sean Payton, those are my next 2 guys that I would be calling if I was the Broncos. And I want to rebuild this franchise. All right, 2 more games. The Bucs and the Cardinals. I could not stand to watch this game. It was not anywhere as bad as the Rams and the Broncos. But watching this game, I just have no idea how Brady can still put up the numbers that he can, given the talent that he has and given with the protection that he has, because he has no protection whatsoever from that offensive line that's injured. Okay, so I have no idea how he's performing the way that he is still under this team, under center. And not only that, but this Cardinals team is also bad too. And their defense is not very good. And by the way, J.J. Watt announced earlier today that at the end of the season, which is 2 weeks away, J.J. Watt is going to be retiring. So that might hurt. That's definitely going to hurt the Cardinals moving forward defensively, and especially in the pass rush. So J.J. Watt is going to be retiring. So the Cardinals need to figure out what they're going to do for next year for that. But I just don't understand how the Bucs keep winning these games the way that they do. And not only that, but, allowing Trace McSorley, who I believe stinks, allow him to get 16 points on this Bucs defense. Like, I just don't get it. I have no idea how it would happen. And they were down by 10, the Bucs. It was 6-6 at halftime. And then going on, the Cardinals extended their lead to 16-6. I just have no idea. No idea how you can let Trace McSorley score 16 points on you. Especially if you're supposed to be the GOAT of all time, and which Tom Brady is. But I just don't get it. I really don't get it. This Bucks team, even if they make the playoffs, they're still the team I would want them to play in the playoffs because of Tom Brady and because of the history and because, well, you just don't bet against Tom Brady. And during the playoff season, this is the best Tom Brady you're going to get. And while he has shown some signs of helping the team improve within the last week or so, I don't know. This team is just so unpredictable. They could win one week, but they can absolutely blow it the next week. And that just hurts the Bucks' chances of going further in the playoffs. All right, last one we'll talk about is the Chargers-Colts game. I'm telling you, I said it earlier, I'll say it again. The Chargers defense, watch out for them. They are legit. And obviously they play the Colts. The Colts stink. The offense for the Colts stink. They have no offensive line. Nick Foles played in there. He did not do anything better than what Matt Ryan would have done. I don't get what the purpose of having Nick Foles in there over Matt Ryan. They can't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. No receivers could catch the ball. I mean, I get all that, but even before then, too, with the Chargers, they were playing against teams like the Dolphins. They covered very well against the Dolphins and had a really good defensive game there. They had a really good defensive game against the 49ers. They had a good game, a couple of weeks ago. They played, I can't remember who they played, but the Titans. They had a really good defensive game against the Titans, and they ended up winning that game. Had a nice defensive game against the Raiders, even though they lost. Like the Chargers are getting hot at the right time and at the right place too, and that's good. That's a good thing for the Chargers because now Keenan Allen, Mike Williams are back healthy and they're ready to go. The run game is still very, very good under Austin Eckler. The defense, Khalil Mack is back in there. I believe Joey Bosa's back in there as well. J.C. Jackson, Derwin James, with all the top-notch and all-pro players on that defensive side of the ball, all coming back and playing together at the right time. The Chargers are coming back at the right time. They're playing, hardcore defense at the right time, and this is exactly what they needed to do. They need to start playing the defense. And they were having trouble with that earlier in the year, but now they've seemed to really figured it out well. And I think with 2 games left here for the Chargers, they've got to play the Rams and they got to play the Broncos. And we'll say they win those last 2 and they end up being 11-6. I think that's a very likely thing. They'll beat the Rams and they can beat the Broncos. Very well possible. And I think the defense can really hold up to their with what they can do and what they've been able to showcase within the last month of defense, because I really like what this defense has. I just think they're very good now. Obviously, the run is a little bit skeptical. I do show some concerns about how they do against the run, but at the same time, though, too, besides the run, they play good coverage. I think they've got the corners that can play good coverage. When they have Khalil Mack, when they have Joey Bosa in the passing attack, and you need to stop the pass, they're in there and they're good. They can do it. And Sebastian Joseph Day as well. They've got a rock-solid defense. I think they're starting to play better. They're coming hot at the right time, and that could push them to a deeper playoff run here. If they can do a lot of the things that they know they can do, that, then they can be successful in that. But if they kind of start to fall apart like they did earlier in the year, it could be, could definitely hurt them. But I like the defense a lot. I think they bring a lot to the table, and I think they go on moving forward. And the Colts, say it again, they stink. The Colts stink. They need to look into next year. And I think they need to look into a quarterback for the Colts. They got to look into receivers. They got to look in offensive line. That whole offense has gotten worse. And Matt Ryan is not able to help you out. So You need to move on from Matt Ryan. You need to move on from Nick Foles. You need to move on from Sam Ellinger. Find somebody else that can take command of the offense, because none of those 3 quarterbacks can do that. All right, guys, so there you go. That is my Week 16 recap here. If you have not done so already, before we sign off, please be sure to drop a like. Be sure to drop a comment down below in the live chat here, please, or even afterwards when this video is over and we are no longer live, then just leave a comment down below in the comments section here. Guys, I love doing this every single week for you guys. The off season is coming. The postseason is coming. I need your advice. I need your help to help this channel grow to be where I know it can be. And I know you guys like to hear me talk. I know I ramble a lot, but I know you guys like to hear me talk. So do all those things, please. If you could do that, like, and please drop a comment down below. Also, if you can too, please hit that subscribe button as well. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so that way you can be in tune as far as when I go live or when I drop some new content on the channel. So, with all that being said, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. Really means a lot. I know I say it all the time, but anytime, even if it's just one view, I enjoy the one view that comes to watch these videos, because I know that one person really enjoys it and wants to continue with doing that. So, everybody, with all that being said, thank you again for tuning in. This is your boy, JP Football Fanatics, saying peace out. We will see you all next time. I'll see you all tomorrow night when I do my Week 17 predictions. I'll have that all set and ready for you. And we will see you all tomorrow night at 9 o'clock sharp. Thank you, everybody.